Buongiorno a tutti da Rimini.
So good morning everyone from Rimini for this 2020 edition of the Rimini meeting for friendship between people. We're here with our guests. Today the session we'll have is a meeting that is going to talk about TV series, and I would like to greet our guests connected from remote, Laura Cotta Ramosino, a producer. Then we have Luca Argentero, a famous Italian actor, and Francesco Arlanch, who is a playwright. Thank you for being with us. I'm happy that you are with us. I assume you are in famous holiday destinations, but it's also very nice to have you here in this unconventional setting that we have decided for the Rimini meeting to talk about TV series. TV series have become increasingly important recently. They were first created in Italy in the golden years of TV to bring on the TV stage, masterpieces of the Italian and world literature. Examples of these are, for example, the Karamazov brothers and others, and they've always had the great benefit that they were able to show masterpieces of Italian literature to the Italian people. So important masterpieces that could not be reduced to the 2 hours of a movie. Then, as time went by, an increasing share of the Italian audience has unfortunately been compelled to stay home and started increasingly watching TV series in order to find some form of entertainment, as well as to enjoy products like the ones we're going to show you and use them to have useful food for thought, to think about the current situation of the Italian society and to have some kind of a vision on man and on his desires and wishes that TV series have always tried to, in a way, improve and make increasingly appealing to the audience. I would like to ask Luca Argentero, our star. He is an actor, a cinema actor and TV actor, and given his experience we can immediately talk about this topic. So I would like to ask him to talk about some of the differences that may be found between films, between the movies and TV series that can be basically enjoyed over a longer period of time. So what is your role between these two different modes? There are not so many such big technical differences. I mean, what I do on the stage is on the set basically is the same. The players involved and the professional profiles involved are the same. So it is the viewers, the spectators who have a different experience. If I may allow to correct you, I think the TV series were already very important before the pandemic. COVID has only been a driver that has led increasing number of people before the TV, but actually TV series were already becoming increasingly important before. Personally, as a professional, I do not identify big differences when it comes to, in a way, finalize a project that is to be broadcast on TV or at the cinema. I mean, it's just that for a TV series you have more time at your disposal, and therefore you have more time to tell in a more detailed way some characteristics of your character. And this, I mean, given the fact that the cinema you have less time, you have to synthesize in a bit. This is really very interesting. This shows that for an actor, the approach you have before the camera has lots of points in common, irrespective of the duration and of the fact that actually the narration is more diluted compared to narration at the cinema. Our three guests have another element in common. They have worked together on a TV series which has been very successful, which is Doc Nelle tue mani. I would like to show you a couple of excerpts from the TV series and then we can comment on them. Okay, now a question to Francesco Arlanch, the screenwriter of the TV series. How have you decided to create a medical series in Italy? This is definitely not the first one, but it is very original. And also technically, it seems to me that it is very much closer to foreign, very sophisticated products compared to other Italian productions. Can you comment a little bit on that? Yes, well, certainly the first challenge was given to us by Lux Vide, the producer, our producer, which together with Rai Fiction decided to meet this challenge. That challenge of actually having a medical series in the Italian main TV channel, Rai Uno. There were not similar cases. Another TV series was Braccialetti Rosso, but that was very peculiar because it would tell the story of patients. But our idea was actually to narrate a medical genre, which is famous all over the world. It is present in all world TVs, and it has a consolidated tradition. There are lots of American series who for years have been watched by lots of spectators. So the idea was actually to do a similar medical series in Italy as well. And this was a challenge that Lux Vide and Rai Fiction told us. They asked myself and Claudia Rispoli to basically narrate the story starting from the experience of a true story. So after some months of research, we actually learned about a doctor from Lodi, Pierdante Piccioni. This doctor unfortunately had an accident, an incredible accident that almost appears to be not true. Actually, he suffered from amnesia, a 12-year-long amnesia. And following the accident, Dr. Piccioni started a different pathway, and this new pathway made him into a different doctor. So starting from his biography, together with Viola and the director, in 3 years' work, we built the series. We tried to, in a way, learn the lesson that decades of medical TV series, especially from the Anglo-Saxon world, have taught us, and to try and narrate a story in an Italian way, especially commenting and talking about the relation between the doctor and the patient. This is actually what Doc is about. I mean, it provides and narrates the special relation between human beings, the special relation between those who provide for care and those who are cared for. Thank you, Francesco. And now I have a question to Laura. Laura is a producer. I assume we are also addressing spectators, an audience who's also composed of lay people. So if you talk about producers, you're tempted to think about Louis Meyer, who is sitting behind a desk with a cigar in his hand and who is deciding about the future of a series or not. What's the work and the job of a producer in Italy? Do you have a desk between you and the authors? Actually, I don't even have a cigar, actually. I've never smoked in my life. I've never had the chance and the pleasure to work for this series, although I would have liked actually to work on this series. I work for Cattleya, not for looks. The work of a producer is a work that kind of binds together inspiration, then the drafting, the writing, and then the actual work when production is made. I often associate the fascination that TV series have with the fascination that was generated by big novels, the great novels of the past. I mean, you not only have basically interpretation of the world, but you also sometimes have the pleasure of accompanying the experience of the world. So TV series are like that. In the case of a novel, you have an author, while in the case of a series, the series is the result of those who write it. And oftentimes it is not just a single person, but more people, as well as many other people who then ultimately have the task of finalizing it. I mean, a screenwriter is not a book, it is some kind of a handbook, an instructions manual to do something more, be it a movie or a TV series. And to reach the end of the work, sometimes it takes years. Years of writing, and years in which the series is shot, then produced, and then broadcast. So the producer is involved in all of these stages. I mean, we kind of bind together the work of the writer, of the screenwriter, of the director, of the actors, of all the professionals working on the TV series, thereby bearing in mind what reality is. I mean, what writing at the beginning is, of the places where it is shot, of the events, sudden events, be they good or bad, of all the qualities and properties of the writing and of the surrounding that can contribute to the story itself. So Francesco before would talk about the fact that this is a medical series. And of course, the reference here is Anglo-Saxon models. So our question to Luca: did you have any special characters, any special actors in mind who played the role of doctors in similar TV series, maybe in the United States or in England, that you could draw inspiration from when you accepted to in this role? Well, no, because actually I had my real doctor. I could draw inspiration from my real doctor, and that was a wonderful experience. It's very complex to actually work on a biography and with the protagonist of that biography being alive and telling you things. I would like basically to draw a line between the dots between what was said before. A classical example is what is basically creating a link between screenwriters and producers. If you write, for example, the soldiers land on the beach, it just takes a line. But then for the producer, that means that you have to equip lots of different people who have to basically visually show what it means to have a whole army landing on a beach. In a lot of series today, the series is written in a very skilled way. I've already said a lot of beautiful things about Francesco and Viola because they've done excellent work, and I think also the series has also been written in a very intelligent way. I mean, they have accomplished a great work in terms of trait d'union between the writing and the finalization. Everything is really beautiful with costs that are basically, although high, they are basically related to just one setting, which is that of a hospital, and this helps maximizing and optimizing costs. And that is why we hope to have the second part, a second season of the series. So what Luca says leads me to talk about yet another aspect that is often forgotten, that is often, faced by those who write TV series or films. In other words, the relation between the writer or the protagonist of the event, and how this relation can impact, the extent to which this relation can impact on the evolution of the story. There can be authors of novels who would like to intervene at every single stage in which the series is shot, and then there are others who say, okay, I've done my job and I'm not interested in how it is finalized. You worked starting from the real life experience of a living person who was the protagonist of this. So I would like to know how, where the actual parts of the story of this doctor selected, and how were the other ones chosen. Francesco. As regards Doc, we carried out an existential but also a professional experience. As Luca said before, the relationship with Perdante and Piccioni was very important for him because he had the chance to basically play the role of the protagonist. But the same applied to me and Viola when we had to write the story. Perdante was a real gentleman. He allowed us to draw onto his biography without expecting us to be literally faithful to actually what had happened to him, because of course in a TV series there are some rules that pertain to the very same narration. I mean, we had to create 16 hours of television, of series to be shown, and therefore even if Pierdante's biography was very rich, that was not enough, and so Viola and I had to add a lot. We added characters, and in this respect Pierdante was very collaborative and very open. He enabled us to truly grasp his experience as narrated by him in Meno 12, whose autobiography published by Mondadori. The main issue is empathy as a key issue, the most important factor between in the relation between the doctor and the patient. Not so much in a paternalistic way, but rather empathy as a form of knowledge, as a tool to acquire better knowledge. Pierdante made it possible to us to shed light on an aspect that is less known. I mean, developing empathy with a patient enables the doctor to formulate a better diagnosis. And this was the DNA in developing the stories. One of the things that you pay most attention to, when, for example, when people say Doc is a series that tries and emulate the big TV series from the United States. The first good rule of US TV series in this series of ours was that we involved professionals in writing the story. In this case, a chief physician, Professor Landolfi at Policlinico Gemelli, and he helped us writers to narrate truthful, correct cases. I mean, often people talk about Dr. House or ER or The Good Doctor. Well, in this case, the authors, the writers, are also doctors. Thanks to Pierdante, Viola and I spent whole weeks in the wards together with the doctor's assistant, and the same was done by the actors. I mean, Luca Argentero has been a great artist on the set, but actually he was so professional that he devoted weeks and weeks of work in documenting himself in the ward, in the hospital. And this is a good way to learn how to build a series in the American style, so to say. That's true. As a spectator, I was very much impressed by the level of detail in describing the hospital setting. Sometimes you think of very approximate products of the 1970s in which the focus was only on the face of the protagonist, but in Doc this is not the case. You really have the intention, especially in the most dramatic parts, that you're dealing with true professionals. and underlining the human aspect, as Francesco did, is probably one of the main reasons of the success of this series, as well as of the fact that it very rapidly earned the support by the Italian public. There is a second video from the series I would like to show you. Okay, I have a question for Laura. As a producer, you pay a lot of attention also to the entire scenario. How have Italian TV series grown, also compared to the important European or Anglo-Saxon models? What gaps can still be identified that we need to bridge, and what gaps have we already bridged? I believe that Italian TV series have grown a lot in almost all fields in recent years, both because they've managed to maintain their traditional reference audience and the spectators who were already watching TV series, and by conquering audiences abroad. Italian productions are increasingly capable of addressing a global audience. Suffices to think about the success of a project like L'Amica Geniale, a project of a TV series that was shot in Neapolitan dialect, an Italian story that was co-produced by Rai and HBO and then sold all over the world. And this had been preceded by yet another different series, completely different series, like Gomorra, a niche product, but yet another product that was particularly famous in both Italy and all over the world. So one might say that we are dealing with a truly Italian phenomenon, who, however, was told and narrated with the proper interpretation and narration key all over the world. This applies also to very different products. In other words, Italian TV series learned to sell its big stories outside Italy, the big stories that talk about Italy and also about the whole world. We had I Medici, the Medici family, so a series that talks about this famous Renaissance Italian family, but which is known all over the world, as well as the narrations which are genre-specific TV series, so police TV series or medical TV series. In other words, those TV series which are very long and not related to one specific event. In other words, these have become so good in terms of writing and production that they can compete on an equal footing with international TV series. And I think that it is here that the future of the entire Italian production system can compete. We will become increasingly capable of doing this because the culture of our screenwriters and producers is evolving. There's a whole new generation of screenwriters who studied in Italy and abroad. They do not only look at international TV series, but they've had the chance to work with professionals, Italian and European professionals, as well as American ones, and who will be the generation of professionals who will develop truly Italian and truly international products at the same time. So screenwriters who speak English and can easily communicate with their international counterparts. And this is probably one of my dreams. I really hope that it is possible maybe to have to develop writers' rooms. Writers' rooms are a way of working, a way of writing for the writing of TV series. And actually we're talking about a room in which screenwriters sit down together and plan and design a series and then implement it in their own episodes, individual episodes. And this actually highlights also the peculiar character of the writing for TV series. This is a system that was first generated in the States, and then gradually it has gained ground in Italy as well. I think that the next step can be that we can have writers' rooms for screenwriters, also with people coming from different countries who can talk about a new and different reality addressing everybody, as well as other countries. Okay, when I hear about writers' rooms, I always think about the autobiography of Suso Cecchi D'Amico, one of the most important screenwriters in Italy. She said that basically would often meet with Ennio Flaiani, and she basically said that Ennio Flaiano and her could basically were sort of working in a workshop. They were putting pieces together, and they were remedying them and modifying and improving them. Okay, we've talked about the good and the beautiful of the Italian TV series and how we managed to get out of certain cliches. At the beginning, people thought that the focus was only on crime stories, like in the case of La Piovra, and how we then managed to gradually address international production. So I would like to talk about international production. What do you like of these productions? What captures you the most before your TV or your PC screen? What series have been most inspiring for you? Not only in the medical field, but in general. Francesco? Well, personally, I'm always on the look for great stories. So stories in which emotions, feelings, topics, memorable topics are dealt with. So stories for which, it is worth to devote a couple of hours of your time. This year, a real masterpiece has been Chernobyl, an American series that tells the story, which is a non-American story, but has in a way affected the whole world. And it does so in a very interesting way, because it tells the story of an ecological disaster that we all know, however, identifying a common thematic key of interpretation. So the conflict between truth and lies that goes well beyond an individual event, an individual ecological disaster. So this is a strategy that this was a TV series that, in my opinion, was the best ever in the last 12 months. The offer of good quality TV series is very broad at the moment. I've been doing this work, and as screenwriters, most screenwriters find it difficult to be updated on the new titles that are distributed every day on an increasing number of platforms. So finding your way through the many platforms is difficult. Sometimes you lack orientation, and spectators, it's easy to understand how they can lose orientation. They are in search of titles, and then the actual time spent to view a TV series is much lower. There are tools you can use to find some sort of guides to select within this broad offer of titles. Recently, we've had Chernobyl, that was very nice, and then some classical TV series, although they are not very recent, but still they are reference points, and that I would like to suggest, like This Is Us or Downton Abbey. They can do it. And Downton Abbey, set in the England of the beginning of the 20th century. So these are real classical masterpieces. Laura before said that TV series are new contemporary novels. I think that probably in 500 years Downton Abbey will continue appealing spectators like the novels of the 19th century today.
Luca, what about you? Do you prefer drama or comedy? Which is your favorite genre? And as a father, do you binge watch as soon as you can, or do you try to cope with your family commitments? Well, I think I haven't been sleeping for days, and as soon as I get to be in front of the TV set, I just fall asleep. And so my little daughter was born 3 months ago, and since then I haven't slept at all. And to me, there are some great classics like Lost and Breaking Bad, and then I had some sort of specific passions for Fargo or True Detective, and then there is the sort of Spanish Nouvelle Vague like The House of Paper. And I think that they are so good at matching production aspects and the screenplaying aspects. So they are very good at finding somehow audience catching series. But unfortunately, I haven't seen much over the last 3 months. I don't sleep, and I walk around the house like a zombie. I'm being asked to read screenplays and things, but I can't. And I really so sleepless. I'm overwhelmed by the fatigue, even though I'm so happy as I've never been before in my life. I feel like drunk, but well, Francesco has 3 kids, so probably he has already gone through all that, the sort of, roller coaster situation. But now, I have another question, and say to our producer, but regardless of that, which are the TV series that you like the most to watch? As a spectator, as a watcher, do you prefer comedy or thriller or drama? Well, I must say that I like them all. And as Francesco said, it's hard to keep the pace of the new releases. There's so much new all the time. And also, it's hard to tell which are the TV series that are worth watching, as you said. And one of my favorite series is Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. It's a beautiful comedy, musical comedy set in the 50s about these New Yorker Jewish upper class housewife that discovers a talent as a stand-up comedian. She ends up on stage somewhere, and well, somehow all that disrupts her life and also disrupts the life of the people surrounding her. It's a beautiful series, and I mean, the dresses and costumes of the main character are amazing. The whole setting is amazing, and through comedy, many interesting topics are dealt with. Also, contemporary topics and themes are dealt with in spite of the 50s setting. And then there is another series that I really liked a lot, Mandanter, that took inspiration from real facts. It's about the birth of a specific serial killer devoted department of the FBI at a time when the concept of serial killer did not exist yet. And a whole portion of the American society between the 70s and 80s is narrated, and also the relations between men and women and how the gaze of the police changed over time. And then we have this super classic of some time ago, something that I really loved. It's The West Wing. I think that series, more than any other, was able to tell politics in such an interesting way. And well, Aaron Sorkin, a real master when it comes to playwriting and screenwriting, was great. I mean, till today, I think it's an exceptional example of writing. And, well, many copycats came along the way after that. But, I mean, it's unparalleled. And then let's end up with another note. For Mankind, it's another recent series. It's a sort of series about recent history, but showing to what extent a small change, I mean, can tell a lot and do a lot. So, according to the series, the first one to set foot on the moon were the Russians, and that brought about in the series many changes. And I think that this is an interesting attempt to explore and investigate the deep and serious topics by changing things here and there in history with a capital H, and that forces us and pushes us to change our gaze on things. Oh, well, thank you very much for these remarks and thoughts and views that show us to what extent, the great variety of series is a treasure trove for all of us, and also to show us to what extent there's an evolution. We have fantapolitics, fantasocial genre, and fantasy, but more than that, we have series based on true facts that can develop passionate stories because of the genre, science fiction, drama, thriller. There's such a wide range of TV series now that the choice is up to you. And, well, as a cinema journalist, I must say that I suffer a little bit when I see that, to some extent, TV series can be accessible through a computer, through the TV. But on the other hand, well, cinema was stuck for quite a long time, and we don't really know what's going to happen next. So, Luca, I ask you this first, being both TV and movie actor, what's your take on the future of cinema? Because if we make a comparison, TV series, we may ask ourselves, what's going to be the future of cinema? Is cinema going to be strengthened or weakened? Well, I think that unfortunately cinema was clearly weakened by the situation, and the solution is not there yet. Well, as we can see, there's so much uncertainty. The social phase is very complex and difficult and uncertain. Think about schools. We do not know what's going to happen. And also for us, the uncertainty is high because this situation is going to influencing also our lives. And not just in the short term, but also in the long run. And even if I think about not just cinemas, but also theaters, and when the COVID emergency somehow boomed, I was in the full swing of a theater tour, and theaters remain so precious and valuable. People go out and share the same place to enjoy something together, just breathing in the feelings conveyed by actors and other theater goers. And, well, maybe somehow the COVID speeded up somehow normal natural social distancing phenomenon that brings us to be alone with devices more and more and more. And cinema and theater somehow were still occasions and opportunities to get out of a house and to share places and time with other people. I think that the cinema is going to be extremely weakened, and it will take a long time to go back to normal, and maybe much of the responsibility will be up to us. Well, we will need to propose convincing products to persuade people to go back to movie theaters so that they can somehow abandon with no regrets the remote control or the PC screen. We will really need to offer amazing stories that require a large screen and that sound and that delicious popcorn smell. But I think that is going to take a long time, a lot of effort, and I have no idea about the time. I think that full comeback is still quite far away. And Francesco, you are a writer for TV, so maybe you're in a safer position. What's your take on this? Well, certainly, TV right now, well, is going through a positive period. It has a dominant position. But certainly, cinema and TV are different because, well, we know that TV maybe is more contemporary times oriented and routine oriented. But also authors are asking themselves, what kind of routine are we going to tell in the near future? Because, well, what we're living right now is this going to be still the case? Maybe in 1 year, 1.5 years time, when what we are writing now will be ready to be screened, was that still up to date? And nobody knows. Maybe some series will be written and shot pretending that COVID never existed. Maybe other series, of course, will tell what happened. It's such a sort of, landmark historic event, and we're still going through that. So I do agree with what Luca said. The only thing we know now is that actually we don't know anything precisely about the future. So certainly TV is now living in a safer position, even though, as you know, well, a TV set can be as complicated as a movie set. So in this case, we must say that Italy, for once, is at the forefront in this case. Other countries are trying to imitate even our protocols to open up the sets again. We have been the first in the world to reopen sets in June. So this is certainly an excellent result that gives us hope. And I hope that this hope will also extend to the cinema world and to the theater world. And I agree with what Luca said. Inevitably, we need to offer interesting stories because we need to find the right stories likely to attract people's interest. Because we need to urge people to go out and leave their houses and pay the price of a ticket. And this applies to cinema, to theater, but somehow it applies also to TV. Because TV also needs to attract. Because the bar gets higher and higher. And this is something good, especially for viewers. Well, Laura, do you already have texts and screenplays and, I don't know, proposals for series about COVID? Well, not for now, but I mean, regardless of the fact that maybe, texts about COVID will come soon, I think that we won't be able to pretend that nothing happened, because that affected all of us so much, so deeply. It was so transformative. Some people were affected more, others a bit less, but everybody was disrupted. Everybody was shocked and turned upside down. And for some people, being locked down and grounded for 2 months was one thing. For others, that meant another thing. So we will have to come to terms with all that. And so COVID is certainly a multifaceted experience. It was lived differently by people, but it's something that certainly we will need to tackle sooner or later. And also a matter of transparency and honesty. If we decide to tell a story, we should try to do it at our best. Otherwise, we would simply pretend that stories happened. As far as cinema is concerned, I think that, yes, as it was said, we need to find good stories, persuading people to get out and go to the cinema again, because cinema is a great experience. Getting together to a place and sharing something together with other strangers, because otherwise when we are in front of a screen all alone, we miss that kind of community experience. That's why some apps are being developed to somehow share the vision of a series with other people. It's something that is part of us, of our sort of nature, regardless of the medium, TV or cinema or whatever. So thank you very much. And we will have soon to stop our session, but I would like to thank you, and I would like to say something about these dialogue that we had, because we were able to talk about so many aspects about TV series, but also cinema at a larger level. And we've also tried to cast some sort of light on the future of these arts, because certainly our intention is to keep enjoying the beauty of stories both on the small and large screen. I would like to thank Francesco Arlanch, writer for TV, Luca Argentero, great actor, and Cotta Ramosino, producer. And thank you very much again from the Rimini meeting, and see you very, very soon. Goodbye.